Tonight we're going to talk to Cody Monroe. He's an entrepreneur in Auburn, California. He's a business owner. You are the founder of Auburn Business Ventures, and this is a business that helps businesses with marketing and strategy.
Yep.
You also host a Limitless event, which is a meetup for entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
And you're the host of the Gold Mine podcast.
You got it.
Well, thank you. Welcome. I really appreciate you doing this.
Man, it's an honor. As soon as I walked in, actually, you gave me a glimpse and through social media of this beautiful podcast set that you now have and you get to use. And I knew coming into this that I'm like, this is going to be so cool and so fun. And so before I even opened that door, I had my camera on and ready. And I swear I'll show you after I opened the door and I already had my camera rolling. So it's an honor.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's an honor for me as well. If we can start, maybe give a little bit of your background.
Yeah. So basically, I'm a local guy. I was born in Auburn, right? So I kind of have a few different things going for me at this point in life. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I got 4 kids.
It's amazing.
Business owner. If there's anything that sums me up, I feel like I'm always choosing to do the hardest thing. And
did you always want this many kids, or is this something that...
my wife and I, we did not plan for a number. I think, we were so young, we got married at 21 and we fell in love in high school, high school sweethearts.
Nice.
And I think we were just so anxious to get married and be together and not have anything be complicated.
It's interesting because most entrepreneurs and successful people that I meet, they have this story where it started in high school and they get married earlier, and having kids, this many kids, man. I have so much respect for people who choose to have kids right now in today's time.
Yeah.
When a lot of people they're afraid.
There's cultural pressure against doing so.
Oh, yeah.
And shoot, my business partner has 5 and he's a year younger than me. And, I have another friend and they're they're about our age and have 5 kids too. They'll probably have 6 or 7 or 8, and it's just the biggest blessing in the whole world. Is it a lot of work? Of course it's a lot of work, but I think just in our culture today, people are afraid of commitment.
Yes. People
are getting married later. They don't want the commitment, whatever. Maybe it's just the overthinking, the overcomplicating. And maybe that's an argument for doing things younger and just getting started and doing it. If I make an analogy between my personal life and my business life, in parallel, what I've learned is no matter what you do or how much control you think you have over life, your only real option is to take action and then make adjustments as you go.
Yes.
Now, planning is good, of course, but I just think that people think that they can plan everything in their life exactly to the T and that they're going to have full control. And that's just really not how things work. And that's something I think, being an idealistic young man, my dad has always kind of talked to me about it, Cody, you're a little bit pie in the sky, buddy. I told him back before I had the business, I want to have a business. I quit my job. And he's like, man, you got a government job. What are you doing? And I get it. What he was trying to tell me was that, Cody, you can't control everything. Mm-hmm. You're being incredibly confident for somebody who hasn't lived a long life yet. And I respect that message still from my father, even though I still went and did my thing and started my business. And he might think I'm crazy, because he thinks I have a lot of kids,
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. I think it's take action and adjust. And that's kind of the theme of my life. Could things have been planned better? Sure. Always. You always look back and be like, I could have done that better.
That's life.
But I'm also not God, so I can't figure it all out, plan it out. Chances are, if I just am so stubborn with my my planning and the way that I think the world should revolve around my wants and desires, I'm going to be in for a rude awakening at some point, because I'm probably going to have crappy goals too.
I can only imagine how the world would be right now if, let's say, 200 years ago or 100 years ago, people were all about what's good for me as an individual. Like I was just recently
Yeah, the
listening.
kind of like selfish based,
Yeah, like
or yeah.
when I hear, I don't know, you know Bill Maher?
Yeah.
So sometimes I listen to some of his podcasts, and obviously he's not married, never was,
Right.
doesn't have any kids, and he says that he never liked kids, even when he was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard him argue with multiple guests that he has on, and I just don't understand that perspective. I wonder if at one point in his
Well,
life,
is he an atheist?
yes.
Yeah. Well,
Look, just think about like what happens when a big chunk of the world population,
Mhm.
first of all, doesn't believe in God, which means they don't believe in life after death,
right.
and they don't have any kids. So in their mind, once they're gone,
Right.
that's it, right? So there's really nothing in the future to look forward to or try to make future better.
It's interesting. Haven't spent very much time really on running the thought process of how to find meaning in life without God. Because I get like a little bit down the road and I'm just like, this just feels futile. Like it seems so like a dead end street, just because I believe in God. So, and that, to me, that's not like any different than saying I believe in this chair that I'm sitting in, that it exists.
Mhm.
It's just because to me, it's just like, well, where did things come from? And if we look at even scientifically, and I guess this is kind of getting out there, but it's like, entropy. It's like everything is kind of, the universe is falling apart slowly and homogenizing. But it's like, okay, fine. If that's where science tells us the nature of matter goes, then where did the order come from in the first place?
Exactly.
That's disintegrating now. I don't know. Maybe some astrophysicist out there has some fancy answer. But to me, I'm like, well, look, I'm either going to live a life of meaning or not. And it's not like I have times in my life when have less faith than in other times in my life. And that could be, maybe my church life, or it could just be something as simple as like believing in myself on a day-to-day basis and my ability to execute, but faith is a human component that I think is primary to our well-being.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. I think that looking back at my parents' life, their decision to come to America back in 1993, they already had 10 kids.
Yeah. What number are you?
I'm number 3.
Yeah?
Yes.
You had a lot of younger siblings.
Yes. So at that time, my brother and sister twins, they were like 11 months old.
Mm-hmm.
And, we were coming here, and my dad was 33 years old. And at that age, to do that, like to leave a country where, the language, the culture, and go somewhere where you're just hoping that, okay, this is going to be a better future. That country is going to be a better future for my kids. That took a lot of just courage and faith. And if you ask them right now, it was faith. They just trusted God, and they relied on the fact that God will help, and that's exactly what happened. We came here, and right now, looking back, there was never a moment where they regretted making that decision, and that was something that I tried to learn from my parents, especially my father, is his like just unrelenting faith in God and just complete trust.
It's interesting because that required him to give up everything. Was it Ukraine?
Yes.
Regardless of where it was, like, point is packing up and leaving everything behind.
Yeah.
Right. I know sometimes being in the more kind of conservative part of California where we live, a lot of us have already left the state, gone to Texas, gone to Idaho,
Yes.
gone to
Yes.
Arizona, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at a point a few years ago where I thought about doing that, and I didn't because normally you don't do that when you're not desperate enough or you don't see a better path, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just seemed like, man, I'm going to leave behind all my network, all my resources. And that was, I think that's probably always going to be the main component, but it just like, there's just so much support here in my life that it makes it bearable to stay,
Yes.
Yes. However, if things were bad enough, or if I saw a big enough opportunity, you're going to make that jump, but it's going to be better if you have faith and optimism about what your life could be, on the other end. Yeah. But still, that's a huge, we're talking across the globe with kids. How many kids at the time?
10 kids.
Yeah. So he's 33, 10 kids.
Yeah.
Moves across the planet.
And it was just,
it's amazing.
It's so funny. Like when I was still a kid, I remember when we came to America, and let's say I was in school or had some kind of conversation with an American adult,
Mm-hmm.
and when they would hear about how many kids my parents have, there was always this conversation like, how did they afford, right? Like it was always like the money part, and I couldn't understand why a lot of them spoke when it came to kids
About money.
about the money part, because for me, like it's just it in our culture, you don't think about that.
Yeah.
You just do it. You figure it out.
Yeah.
You don't say, okay, how much income am I making? All right, I can have another kid. Let's go.
Yeah. It's not like there's like the economics aren't involved with a family situation, right? However, I always tell people, because we were ahead of the curve in terms of age when we were having kids compared to like our peer group, right? So we had 4 kids before the other people who we grew up with even had one or were even married, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we would started when it came their turn to decide that they wanted to move forward in that aspect of their life. My wife and I would always get questions about like, well, I'm just scared because of the money and and a lot of like economic related things. And I'm like, or they'd say, aren't kids so expensive? And I'm like, well, yeah, but like, not in the way that you expect. Like they're thinking about like buying diapers and like buying food.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's always the grocery thing.
Yeah.
Oh, the grocery bill is going to get crazy. I'm like, first of all, you're like years out from that because the kid doesn't eat a bunch of food right away.
Yeah.
And like, I just have like a realistic like perspective of it. But I'm like, look, what's really going to happen is you're going to have to come to terms with one of you's going to have to quit your job generally, or you're going to have to hire a nanny to raise your kid for you. But at that point, you're like, why are you even having a kid?
Yes.
Yeah. But either way, that part's expensive because like to lose a salary is what's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
So they somehow don't think about that, and they think it's going to be the grocery bill. But then again, back to like, what kind of expense are we talking about? They're not thinking about the other types of expense. Like, what are you going to have to personally give up and sacrifice? Is it your drinking? Is it your partying? Is it your time on the boat? What is it?
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have to love this person.
There has to be a payoff for sure.
It's just finding value in like the family structure and system.
And I think that's what's changing big time right now. I don't know if you saw this article, Wall Street Journal article about the American values last year.
Interesting, like a summary or something like that.
So they did a study. They did this study in 1996, I believe, and just recently last year. Basically, they were talking about American values. They had like a group of people that they asked what is important from like certain number. I don't remember exactly. I wish I had this in front of me.
It's okay.
But family, so having children, religion, patriotism, and money. I think there was something else. There was like 5. And oh my gosh, like such a drastic change between what people valued in 1996 as far as having kids, how important that was.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like 60% and it came down to 30%.
Mm-hmm.
But the only one value that increased was the money.
That's the only one that went up on the list.
Yes. So it just shows that the value system
I'm curious
is,
as to how much that was affected just by our ability to have material goods at our fingertips and to kind of like have the ability to constantly shop,
yeah.
right? Like the internet, right?
Mhm.
Because 1996 was like, we still had like dial-up, like internet basically.
Bro, I miss the 90s, man.
But I mean, like shopping back then was like getting a catalog in the mail
Yeah.
or going to the store. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it seemed, it's not like it was inaccessible. It was just more of a part of your life rather than like something that, talk about the word consumerism. It's almost like we're consumed by like consumerism is consuming us.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's, I mean, some of these tools we have at our fingertips are so powerful and so good, like good for if you make them good, right?
Well, I think definitely this nation slightly kind of became the consumer nation.
Yeah.
Because we consume so much more than what we produce.
Mm.
Same thing, even like look at the various
Mm.
platforms on social media, right? Instagram, TikTok. The majority of people that are on these platforms, they're consuming
Yeah.
content.
Right.
They're not producing,
Right.
right? And but the producers are winning because there's so many consumers.
Yeah, and especially the ones that are working hard.
Mm-hmm.
The producers that are working hard.
Yes.
I don't think, I think there's kind of this skewed perception that you can just fire up like a social media account and kind of like have a business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
It's crazy.
it's crazy. I mean, to be honest with you, like I was probably there at one point thinking like, look at all this like attention that you can get. And it's true, I mean, Gary Vee has a point if you ever consumed his content,
Yeah.
which is like a little bit Grant Cardone as well. It's like money follows attention,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that is true. That is true. However, that's not the only thing. Attention is not the only thing you need to secure the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a strategy where you understand that what your ultimate goal is, like when I went to talk to Patrick Bet-David, he was talking about his whole like idea behind building the YouTube channel and all that, so that he's like, first I wanted to build a distribution platform.
Right.
So once you have that, but the goal was to, to produce content that would actually help people. And then, I mean, look how he grew, right?
Yeah.
On YouTube, on everywhere. So it's all about that. Like if you can capture that attention, but if the goal is attention and that's it.
Well, I think that's the mistake.
Yeah.
That's the mistake.
It's not going to go far.
Yeah. But it's the ratio, like you mentioned, between producing and consuming is important. I think right now we're in February of 24 as of this recording, and the people I've talked to in the business community in the past few weeks have said it's been like one of the slowest starts to their business in like the memorable past.
What kind of business, if you don't mind?
Everything from like automotive shops to mattress stores to companies like mine to moving companies to trying to think. It just like it's a variety. It's not. It's it was all unexpected. Like I feel like at the end of the year, everybody was doing fine. It's just weird. I've only been in business for 5 years, so it's not like I have like multiple like economic cycles to reference with firsthand experience. But It has been interesting where everybody's like, it's just really slow. I have never remembered it being this slow. And so like, I don't know, maybe it's just because interest rates were raised to slow the economy down and it's working. That seems like, but
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
like, how long did that take for it to take effect? And maybe it'll like give in a month or two, or maybe it's a sign of like, yeah, the interest rates being raised really did slow the economy down.
But I also think there's a difference between a business that gets prepared strategically for downtime and
Yeah.
they're not relying on people coming in to do business with them because let's say they have some discretionary income. So
Mm-hmm.
they'll come in regardless, right? But if and you said something in your Instagram story about making certain moves.
Well, think times are good.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that's so critical.
Yeah.
And we can get so complacent when economy is booming, everybody's making money. It's so easy to make money, and you just go go go, but you're not thinking about hey, there's
Yeah. There could
cycles.
be, like the sun's shining right now, but wait till the rainstorm comes to your porch, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that is unfortunately the fate we get when we don't use our resources wisely when times are good. Because the point I was making was invest in your brand. I was using the term brand equity, and to build trust with the name of your company, right, or business. Because I mean, the analogy I used in that story was like a restaurant, right? So that was like a discretionary spending analogy. So date night with your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say money's tight personally, but you still want to do date night because you know it's important for the relationship, and you're only going to get like one, maybe in a month or something, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, where are you going to go? Like, are you going to go try the place that you haven't been to yet? Are you going to go to the reliable place that you know you like?
Most likely.
Most likely.
Yeah.
However, if times are good for you personally, why not go try the new place? Because you know what? If it doesn't work out and you might not go back, oh well.
No
Like,
big deal.
and
Yeah.
you can still, get over it and think that way. I'm just saying, generally speaking, people will become more protective of their money when they have less of it.
Oh yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's just the point, So that was what I was trying to tell the people in our community here, because we're on Instagram, at least we're kind of connected with a lot of the other local businesses, and so I use that channel to talk to them on. And I was just saying, look, common theme: times have been slow. So on one hand, it's kind of too late. Like if it's slow, it's slow.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing you can really do.
If you don't have any reserves, then you just
Yeah, like you just have to wait, or you have to, like, I don't know, go borrow money or something to like get more. But like, there's always a time span between your investment and the payoff, right?
yes.
And
yes.
so, right, like lately, it's kind of been like, well, I've already tried this, I've already tried that, and it's like, yeah, well, that's good that you've been trying. There's always something that we can do, an adjustment we can make, but it's kind of hard to tell somebody. It kind of hurts sometimes to be like, it's kind of too late. Like, you're going to have to weather this storm. Like, there's no magic easy button to get out of it. Like, that's kind of the hard truth, And even for the businesses that are investing properly, I think, in their brand and their marketing, they can still have a hard time in the future.
Oh, for sure. Nobody's immune to that.
But my point was like, you're just gonna have a better chance.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. So when the first time I met you, this was a Auburn Chamber of Commerce event, and man, I right away like I felt like you're real, like you guys are actually doing something really uh, that benefits businesses.
yeah.
What is right now like maybe one of like the most common issues um, that local businesses are experiencing having, and how are you impacting these people, these businesses?
Yeah. I'll actually answer this back, I'll answer the second question first. What I can do right now, like in the moment, is often nothing but just like offer my thoughts and my, like, kind of be a console,
Okay.
right? Because there's even professionals, there's nothing we can do to like turn that ship around instantly, right?
Yeah.
But I can be like, hey, here's maybe where you should focus, right? And so that's kind of like how people know us anyway. So kind of just doing that. Now, what the common problem is that people don't know what their problem is, right? So it's a lack of awareness as to why things are slowed down. Now, obviously, if it's a larger economic reason that's completely outside of their control, like that is a factor. Like that's the direction of the wind, right?
Yeah.
However, you'd be surprised. Like there's it could be anything from the name of your business should have been changed a year ago and you've been fighting it for too long.
Oh, wow.
Something like that early in the sales, in the funnel is like, oh, I have a lot of attention, but the name of my business is not as good as it can be to get more people who find us to keep moving down our sales funnel, right? But the main problem is people just don't know, right? Because usually in a smaller town that's like less competitive, maybe, I think at least I have this perception that in bigger cities where the population is more dense, there's more competition because there's more like iterations of the same business.
Yeah.
And so those businesses have to be more competitive. And when they're more competitive, they get better, right? In a smaller town, kind of like where we live, it's like, or at least less like populated. And there's just fewer businesses. There's less to compete,
Yeah.
Now there's a smaller market share too, but regardless, the business owner often kind of just like lays back when times are good. And they're complacent, like you use the word complacent, it's 100% true. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard somebody say, I don't need more business right now. Like actually, I don't need more business right now. And even if I got more business right now, I don't want to turn it away. Like they're afraid of success, right? And actually, I shared that recently too, was like, hey guys, if you're more afraid of success than you are of failure, then to tell me that you want to grow your business is simply inconsistent. And inconsistent doesn't win.
So can you elaborate a little bit about what exactly is a fear of success? What exactly
They don't know what to do with it when it shows up for them.
And
Like I get too many customers and they don't know, they've never had that like, well, first of all, they probably just don't like to have to tell people that they can't help them at the moment because they're too busy. They don't want to turn people down. So that's one little thing, but it kind of plays into this fear of, oh, I don't even know how would I even handle that many customers, or who, a lot of times it's, well, that means I would have to grow my team. And that's terrifying. So they find a comfort zone, and the comfort zone is good enough and like to get them by regularly. But what happens is it's not good enough to, well, and here's the other, they don't want to they think that they could get bigger and then something out of their control happens maybe in the economy, and then they're going to have to be forced to lay people off. And then so they say, I don't want to ever have to lay people off. Therefore, I'm never going to build a business big enough to where that's a possibility. I'm going to keep it small and tight. And it's like, that is an incredibly common story. Now, if that's like what you want, that's what you want, but you're definitely going to feel the pain in a very specific way when the next slowdown comes, because that's what happens in the economy. It gets hot, it gets cold. It gets hot, it gets cold. That's it. It's like being a buoy on the ocean, just going up and down with the waves. And it's like, and you hear the pain,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
when it goes down, and then when it goes up, like I usually try to get business, like do business with people when things are good. Well, it's easier for me in theory, unless I'm talking to the wrong person
Yeah.
and they're complacent, and it's
Hmm.
like, okay, well, it's not like it's never happened where that person comes back and calls up when times are slow, and you're like, but if we started this when you
Yes.
like. But because it takes time, no matter what my business builds for your business, it will take time for it to, if you plant seeds, it takes time for them to grow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it.
And I think it's very, it's the same thing applies to how a business owner matures and understands
Mm,
the changing environment in business, how times are changing. For example, like when we were doing real estate back in 2011 and 12, 13, I mean, we were so busy just
right.
between me and Tatiana. We were closing on average about 8 to 10 transactions a month. And that's a lot
Mm-hmm.
between just the two of us. And sometimes someone would offer us, hey, you guys maybe should open up, like a social media account. You should maybe do some marketing and all that. I was blind to this. Like I
Mm,
was like, no, I don't need like I've got this much business.
mm-hmm.
This is enough for me. I don't want to, I don't want any more, this is enough.
Well, and you
But
were 12 years younger than you are now,
yeah.
you know, just like killing it, young man and his wife, in the real estate game. It's like, who wouldn't think that? Like, that's definitely makes sense.
Yeah, but I just, I wasn't able to kind of just look into the future and understand that, hey, there's cycles.
Mm-hmm.
If someone was to like really explain to me that, hey, you should do this because what you're doing is you're laying this foundation for the future, and this, what it is right now, it's not going to last. You're going to burn out. And that's exactly what we actually witnessed what started to happen. We were just burning out
Mm-hmm.
too much running around. Everyone's pulling you in different directions.
You're like have like 8 different jobs within
Ye-
your one job.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just, and me, like only later I found out like who I really am. Like
Yeah.
I'm not the guy, I'm not that person, the little detail guy. I mean, when I'm
Right.
building something, I pay attention. I'm a detail guy when it comes to like building quality, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to a transaction,
Mm-hmm.
um, emails, all the contracts. Oh my gosh, don't even get me started. Like
Yeah.
that's not my thing.
Yep.
But being pulled into that and being forced to do that because you don't have anybody else, you
Mm-hmm.
haven't delegated, you never thought of that before. So now you either do it or you got to start really forcing yourself to change.
Well, that is the journey out of the common hell of starting your own business, right? Because you've probably read the E Myth.
Yes.
Yeah, right. It's like it's the common story of the technician who like leaves their job or whatever because they have a skill, and they say, "I'm going to make a business because I have this skill," and it's like, hold on. Like your skill does not equate to knowing how to run a business.
Yes.
Like there's very, very different. Can you still monetize the skill? Yeah, of course you can go make money, but like it's going to take you an amount of time to where you reach the point of just feeling so done that you either quit or you delegate and get out of the way, or I guess you just work like a dog until you
Or
retire
you just go back working for somebody.
or that.
Because
Yeah.
then you always remember those times where you could come home and
Mhm.
just relax and not think about.
Yeah, the paycheck's going to hit on the same day.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds great. But yeah, so there's, where was I going with this? Oh, and then so you're going to face that journey. And then book I read recently, and have implemented quite a bit is called Buy Back Your Time.
My wife just read that book.
Did she? It's so
Yes.
good. It's a super simplified guide to, not be the person who's doing all 10, 15 jobs in the business. And there's actually a formula as to like, who do you hire first? That is a really common problem.
Who do you hire?
If you've ever been in a group of like some of these online Facebook groups, like kind of masterminds or business, like if there's ever like somebody at the head of that who's like the experienced one has gathered everybody, the common question that person gets asked is, who do I hire first? Right? And in Buy Back Your Time, Dan Martell explains that, well, he actually has a formula for like, it's called a buyback rate.
And he says that you don't hire to grow your business, you hire to buy back time.
Yeah. So you have to start looking through that lens, because a lot of us are afraid to just spend the money, which is interesting because how do you think things get done? But anyway, it's like, yeah, buy back your time, because your time, common problem is between sales and production. Like, I'm either making the widgets or I'm selling the widgets. And then you say, well, which one is more valuable to the like more valuable bottom line? Is it you making them or is it you selling? It's like, well, it's me selling. Well, obviously it's you selling. So do you need to get somebody to make them? Right? And then especially with like the administrative stuff, like you said, emails. But yeah, I would recommend that.
Yeah.
That book, Buy Back Your Time.
So you said you've been in business for 5 years now?
Yeah.
Can you talk about maybe a few core values, principles that you have implemented in your business that really drive the way you operate, how you deal with people, how you help businesses?
Yeah, I actually have like a whole list of them, but I'm not going to pull it out. I'm just going to pick out a couple. One is learning as a lifestyle. So it's like, as soon as you think like you have some security in what you think you're going to be kind of soon to find out that you don't really know that, So it's like certainty is like elusive in business.
Yes.
Certainty is very elusive is kind of the point. So just, and if anybody's been in business for any number of years, they're going to like know the value of being a learner, right?
So that takes humility.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Luckily for us, being my business partner, Charlie, and I, the whole venture started through the lens of learning. So the name Auburn Business Ventures actually came from the name of the meetup that we now call Limitless. It was actually Auburn Business Ventures Entrepreneurship Community. Like, it was just the name of the meetup, and we had a different name for the agency.
Okay.
And what happened is, after like a year or two, everybody knew us for this event that we were hosting called Auburn Business Ventures. And I'm on the phone with Charlie, and I'm like, you know what, man? I think I just had like an epiphany. We don't even need like a separate brand. Like, let's get rid of the name of the agency that we have, and let's just be Auburn Business Ventures, a marketing company. Right? And then what happened is, then we gave the meetup a different name and branded that as Limitless. And it was like, that's the kind of thing where it was like, what did I learn? Well, what I learned was leverage, what the customers like go off, like use what's being put in front of you, not what you think you created. That's the best idea. So people were recognizing us for one name, so we went with that name. Right?
Interesting.
So it's like, that's the ability to pivot or whatever and all that. But it's like also letting your ego die a little bit. Like, yeah, that was a crappy name we had anyway, or whatever, So it's like learning. And so even I could go back 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6, 9, 12, 2 years, 3 years. And at even like as of a week ago, like I could tell you things we've learned.
Wow.
So that's like, at least.
Do you record that somewhere, or is this is just something that you kind of keep in your mind?
I do, like, the things that I learn.
Yeah.
I do kind of keep them in my mind. That's kind of a good point. Like maybe I should write a lot of this down. But it's interesting because like, for example, I've had trouble journaling. Like people say journal is good for you, whatever. And I've tried, and it feels so silly because I guess the point is just to like get it out. But I've like looked back, and it's like I don't even have to go that far back in a journal to see like that's like not even the way I see this anymore.
Wow.
Right?
Yes,
Like my
yes.
perception changes so fast and so regularly that I only have to go back like 2 weeks and be like, what were you like, really?
I can relate to that because I do have notebooks where I wrote, like even started in 2022, and I go back and I read some of that, and I just crack up. I
Yeah.
laugh.
Yeah. It's just like, it's this weird for me. It's like this weird, I'm like almost embarrassed to myself, which is so silly because there's like nobody reading it. It's just me.
You know that there's this tool that I guess there is that tool, or maybe it's just something I'm imagining, but it's like an iPad, but you can take notes, you can write with
Oh
it.
yeah. I've seen those. I think it's called like Remarkable or something like that.
Remarkable. Okay, so maybe maybe something like this exists. Do you think that something like this exists now, where you can just take notes as if though you're taking it in a notebook, and it automatically saves it
I bet.
not in your written chicken scratch, but
Like converts it to text.
converts it
I think
to
that's
text.
the thing. Yeah.
There is.
Yeah.
And then maybe organizes it based on what you're writing about topics, so that it can kind of like determine where it needs to go.
I was about to say there's probably a GPT for that
Yeah.
at this point, like a prepackaged.
Because I think that would be pretty cool, because now like you can like anytime, because sometimes like I get these random thoughts that I'm like, oh, I need to record this. So like I pull up a note thing on my phone.
Yeah,
and
it's so slow and like
it's slow, and by the time like
Yeah.
and this is what Elon Musk said. I'm reading his
bio.
bio right
Yeah.
now, and he said something about the texting. That's why he wanted like the when you talk to it, and then it I don't know what exactly it was, what he was talking about, but he says that there is an issue when you have a thought. Oh, he was talking about the
Neuralink.
Neuralink. And he said that something gets lost between like when you have that thought.
Yeah.
By the time you start
Oh,
typing
100%.
it's just you lose that. So anyway, so
I think it's emotion. I think
It's what?
I think it could be emotion.
emotion.
Yeah, like you have a thought.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you ever consumed any of Joe Dispenza's work.
Is
Dr. Joe Dispenza.
okay. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah. Anyway, highly recommend his content if you're into like, I don't know, optimizing your human self, I guess.
Well, I'm all about that, man.
Yeah, Mr. Cold Plunge every morning. That's so good.
Hey.
Anyway, I think when we have these epiphanies in the moment or these thoughts, there's an emotion that goes with it, right? So emotions kind of live in our body, right? And so when you have an emotion, there's usually like a physical sensation that goes with it. Kind of like if, you look at the love of your life and you're a little bit enamored, you blush. There's like these, the mind body connection is kind of like where the emotions come in, like if it's like your brain is releasing these chemicals to make you feel a certain way. It's like that's the bridge between what you're feeling in your body and what you're thinking. And I think when we have these moments of clarity, perhaps there's like an elation for a moment, like, like it feels like, I just unlocked something.
Yeah.
Gosh darn, that feels great when that happens. But then it's like you get down on the paper and it's like you start writing it. And I just, maybe there's creative writers out there that don't suffer from this, but for me, it's like I start to write it and it just feels like work. Like
It doesn't come out the same way.
It doesn't, no, not the same way that it's not poetry. So maybe like somebody strong in poetry would be better at this, at like bridging this gap between like what they thought. I think we need to describe sometimes how we feel. Like this is one of my personal, I guess, problems. I don't know. It's like emotional processing. And I will for example, like, what is it? Smother, or like I'll push down things that I feel, suppress. Thank you, for like a long time until like I crack and I have a moment. And well, like, it's like, well, what? So like you practice considering how you feel more, for example. But when it comes down to it, it's like you have this moment, you have this thought and this feeling that kind of come together as an idea. And then when you have to translate that to writing, I think writing just feels purely logical. Like, am I getting the right words to say the thing? And then you're trying to describe the emotion in a sense.
Yeah.
But you're losing it. Because if you just write the idea out at surface level, you're describing the idea, but it's like, it's so dull once it's on paper.
Yeah, I think it's because the language is so limiting.
Yeah. Well, you're bilingual, right?
Yes. Oh, the language.
Are you speaking of English or just language generally?
Well,
curious.
English is much limited than, let's say, Russian.
Oh.
Russian has more letters.
Okay.
It has way more descriptive words.
Okay. Like there's more words almost.
There's more words, yes. So certain words in Russian cannot be translated into English.
Yeah.
Just because there is no such word in English.
Yeah.
Even like English language has certain words that are exactly the same. They're just spelled differently. For example, I, the I, and I, me as a person.
Oh, yeah.
And all that. Like, we don't have that. Or for example, when you describe a female, a male, or something like a thing, right? Like piece of furniture, it's completely different. Like the way you say it in English, it's all the same.
Okay, it's like just like an object. It's a noun.
Yeah. So, man, like
it's like you describe more of the purpose of the object. Is that kind of part of what's built into the words?
So, for example, when let's say my last name Galushkin, right? In Russian, my wife's, when she uses my last name Galushkin, it wouldn't be Tatiana Galushkin. It would be Tatiana Galushkina.
Okay. Is that because it's feminine, or is it because she's the wife?
No, it's just because the way the language is, where you kind of add something different based on, so that you automatically understand that he's talking about a female or a male or like, so
it's sort of like in Spanish, the word "the" has a gender. Or like the object is gendered.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Or like, for example, the word love, right? In English, it's love. When you look at Greek, there's so many different loves. There's like
there's different kinds of love.
Different kinds of loves, yeah. And each of this different kind of love is described by a completely different name, right?
Yeah.
So
anyway, it has a different word.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think maybe I'm thinking about this topic and what you're bringing up about Elon, but I'm like, well, maybe that's something that I should consider with journaling, is maybe if I practice writing my thoughts more and doing it in such a way that captures the essence of the way I felt about the thought, maybe it wouldn't be so hard.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's something worth trying, So anyway, learning.
Learning. Yeah, learning. That's great. That's
I think one more specific to, like, maybe not even just business, but success generally, is it kind of goes with the Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I think there's a chapter called Think Win-Win. My version is ask for something greater and offer something greater. So that's one of my values.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like, I kind of have this, like, I guess the one emotion that I do often feel, that I've always had since my childhood, is like this upward oriented desire. It's just an overarching desire to like orient upward for the better, for the greater. Now, like when I'm older and wiser, it's like for the glory of God, right? It's just like an upward orientation, just aiming for the good. So when I say one of my values is like ask for something greater and offer something greater, it's kind of like, I guess it really does apply to business because it's like oftentimes maybe you're working a deal with somebody, they're expressing interest in a certain product or service, and it's like, I see more in this for you. Like I'm thinking, I want my customer success more than they want their success. And so what I do is like, I ask for something greater from them. And I say, what about this? And I paint a better, bigger picture, right? Like, yeah, it's going to cost more money and that's a thing. But ultimately in the end, it's like a bigger win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
You have a better, bigger end result. Somebody helped stretch your definition of success, and then whatever, my business made more money, but that has saved so many near lost opportunities, I feel like.
Oh yeah. Well, that's huge. That's really good. I like that.
Yeah.
So
I think I was inspired by Grant Cardone on that one. I think his like book Sell or Be Sold.
Yeah.
That book kind of changed my life, to be honest with you.
Oh wow, really?
This is like back before I had any business at all. Like it was like, okay, well, if I'm considering starting a business, I should probably learn how to sell stuff. And like naturally I find Grant Cardone because Uncle G's like all over the internet at the time,
So what is your vision for Auburn Business Ventures?
It's the pie in the sky goal that I had, like I'm still yet to be able to wrap my head around is like, we're venture capitalists, we're investors, right? That seems like on a scale of 1 to 10, that feels like the 11, right? I think it would be pretty cool to own that building that Riskalize used to be in too over there on Elm. Like that would be awesome. Yeah. Anyway, but I think that's like the crazy, I don't even know how to start on that one. And then the one that's more tangible, more in the near future is really being oriented more as Auburn Business Ventures being growth partners, right? So we're not just a marketing agency. Like you don't come to us just because you need a website or because you need to run ads for a project. It's like you come to us because you want to plug in and partner with a company that from a marketing perspective is going to help propel your business to the next level. And that's really where we're headed, and probably maybe doing a rebrand on, kind of coming off that way more. We're still always going to get calls for widgets.
Yeah.
But really becoming a company that's, hopefully I watch this in 3 years and be like, dude, you killed it. It shouldn't take that long, but then again, what does Tony Robbins say? We overestimate what we can get done in a year and totally underestimate what we can get done in 10 years.
Yes.
I definitely think that's true, because if I look 5 years ago, my goal was to quit my job, and there's like so many like things that have transpired in just 5 years that had I not stuck with it for 5 years, I wouldn't have come this far. And yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Your life will change if you stick to it.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
And it's hard every day.
Yeah.
And you just look back in chunks and you're like, okay, well,
if based on what you said so far, that you have this always like this desire to move forward, to improve, and one of your values in your business is to always learn. I definitely see a bright future for you, and I definitely see you doing a lot of cool things in this community. Um, so the name of this podcast is The Greatest Story,
Mm-hmm.
and the way I kind of came up with that name was at one time I was just thinking about that. We when we are kids, there are certain stories that we are told. Then we start to read. We
Mm.
read different stories,
Yeah.
and then as we grow, there are certain stories that we tell ourselves,
Mm.
about life,
Yeah.
about how things are. And sometimes there can be that one story that gets someone on the upward trajectory or in a negative way.
Yeah.
Is there maybe a story that maybe you can remember, something that really had an impact on you that you can share?
Sure. I thought about this, and I chose a personal story, not a professional story. So a few years ago, actually 4 or 5 years ago, my grandfather passed away, and if I get emotional, that's why I chose this story. By the way, I'm just gonna do it. So my uncle calls me. They're both in Vegas, and he's like, "Hey, Papa had a heart attack. It's not looking good." And I'm like, "Well, like how not good?" And he's like, "I'm like, should I go down there?" And he's like, "Yeah, I mean, I would." And I'm like, "Okay." And so I start looking at flights, and um, just by the tone of my uncle's voice when he's like, I would get down here.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I had to be fast. And so it was already late in the day, and I'm looking for same day flights to Las Vegas. Like right now, I'm going to get in my car and get to the airport. There's like one flight left heading out for the day to Vegas. And it was like, I live up in the foothills, and the airport is down in Sacramento. And I literally just see it in the app, and I just click book, and I just buy it, and I go grab a backpack, throw like a sweater or something in it, just a few things, and I get in the car, and I take off. I completely ignored the speed limit. I just completely ignored traffic laws, obviously being like as safe as I can, but I'm trying to make it to this flight that's going to leave. I mean, I'm talking like 40 minutes from when I click the button. Like insane, like something. I'm hauling by all the way down to Sacramento. Like I'm driving in the carpool lane, and I shouldn't be. And I get to the airport, and there's two big outdoor lots there. And at the time, one was full, like lot full, do not enter, go in the other lot. So I go in the other lot, and there's like 4 cars in this, these parking lots are insanely large. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, there's 4 cars here. There's probably only one bus that loops over. And I'm pulling in, and the bus is just coming around the corner. I'm like, if I miss this bus, I'm going to have to wait at least 10 minutes for another bus. I don't have time.
You don't have time.
And I'm like, if I miss this bus, I'm not going to make it
on the flight
to the flight, which means I'm not getting to Vegas. And so I get out of the car. Who knows? I probably didn't even lock the car. That's the kind of state of mind I was in. And I run over, I wave the bus down, I jump on the bus, get into the terminal. I'm checking in on my phone as fast as I can. And basically, long story short, I'm running through the airport. I just have to ignore being a crazy person running through the airport. And I get into the jetway, just right before they're closing the doors.
Wow.
Right. So I just barely made the flight. Take a break on the plane for an hour, get down to Vegas, and my aunt picks me up at the airport, and we drive straight to the hospital. And sorry, this is the hard part. You find your grandfather, and he's dying. And so I pray. I can't talk to him. But I can hold his hand and I can pray. So I did. I said goodbye. So that night I'm laying in bed and I had this warmth come over me. And it just felt like I could feel him. And to this day, I believe, he was saying goodbye to me because he had a tube. He couldn't talk. So I think that was his way of saying goodbye. And the lesson, damn it. I know. I knew it was going to happen, but it's fine.
It's okay. It's good.
Here's the thing, guys. You got to know what's most important. And you have to go out at full speed. Because, you don't want to miss it by an inch.
Wow, that's so powerful.
I'm just glad I didn't miss it.
Wow.
So I think that I'm never going to forget that, obviously. I'm never going to forget that. And I think now I can't feel fear failure because, damn it, it's going to be full speed ahead. And if we get taken out, you get taken out. But I'm gonna go down trying because I know how close it can be.
Wow.
He died a few hours after I said goodbye, and I just barely got there.
Wow. So interesting because as you were telling the story, I remember my mom's dad, my grandpa. I was at the hospital when he died.
Yeah.
I was watching. So we were taking turns. Staying with him at the hospital. I was only 14 back then or 13.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there in this room. I thought he was sleeping. And I'm just staring out. It was on the 5th or 6th floor. I'm looking out of the window. And then I hear the beeping sound. The nurses rush in. And I'm like, what's going on? And then I remember the nurse asked me, she said, do you want to say goodbye to your grandpa?
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, I mean, I was still young to understand what just happened, but I was there when he passed away.
Yeah.
So I think I was the last one who he saw before he went. There's one story that really moved me and changed me. I believe it really changed me. So, when I was a teenager, got my car, started hanging out kind of late.
Mm-hmm.
My dad, my mom, they always wanted me home by 11. And it was really hard for me to come home by 11 because a lot of my friends, they hung out later than 11.
Sure.
So I was always like, why am I the only one who's going to be going home this early? So I started coming home a little bit later. And then one time it's 1 or 2 a.m.
Yeah, you were pushing it.
And I was pushing it. And every time I came home,
Yeah.
either my mom or my dad, usually my dad, would stay up.
Yeah.
And they would just be in the living room waiting for me. And it was about 2 a.m. I think. I came home. I walked in and my dad comes up to me. He's like, why do you even bother coming in this late? If you come to this house this late, just sleep in the car.
Mm-hmm.
You know that our doors close at 11. But he wasn't saying this. And I completely understood. I knew that I was wrong and he had the right to say that.
Yeah.
Just went into my bedroom and I went to bed. And in a few minutes, I see the door opening and he's coming in.
Mm-hmm.
He walks around to my side and he's like, son, I'm sorry. It's like, whenever you come home, just come home. The door's always open for you.
Yeah.
My goodness. When he said that, I'm like, that's it. That's it. From that on, I never came home that late because to me, it was like, Like how could he do that? Like he
Mm-hmm.
had the complete, like he was right. I
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't have, what the heck am I doing coming home this late, But it
But
was
he
just
ended
that
back on
love.
love,
Yeah,
and
man.
he showed you like where the most important place to be was.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like going and living your life with your friends, and like you're gonna do that, but like this is the most important place, and he proved that,
He did.
by ending on love, because you're not gonna get that with your friends at 1 a.m.
No. No.
I mean, most likely, it's more likely going to look like debauchery, but like, uh, yeah, it's beautiful, especially for a father to, us men can be stern with each other, especially when we're trying to teach our boys to be men.
Yeah, yeah. But that, those kind of moments, as I remember him, how he was with me, with all, my dad told me that he has felt with each one of his kids that day that he realized that he has no, almost like no power over what you as a kid is going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like he said he felt like that the words aren't landing anymore.
Oh, yeah,
they're
yeah,
still
yeah.
going to
Like
do
you're
whatever.
saying with each of his kids, he knew like when they reached a point where they're going to do their own thing.
Yes,
And
yes. And he said it's interesting. It's like you feel it as a father. You feel that. So a lot of wisdom from my father, and I always think whenever I think about my children,
yeah,
raising them. Um, there's a lot that I can learn from my father, and it's so, I don't know. Like to me, I find myself thinking about that a lot. Even when I'm on the flight back coming from business trip,
sure.
whatever, I'm thinking about, okay, how am I as a father?
Mm,
Like my son just turned 10
yeah.
years old, right? I realized that I only have a few more years, when he's still going to kind of like,
Be
want to hang
receptive
out
and
with me, um, it's very sobering, and you just realize that God gives us this short period of time where
yeah,
we can actually do something, and then after that,
yeah. It's
it's it's up to God. That's what I said. God,
yeah.
help me be the kind of father and do whatever I can in this moment, and then after that, you take control.
Yep. Yeah, otherwise you're going to be awake all night with anxiety. Your mind's going to be racing,
Yeah, man.
So,
Like I just recently visited cemetery, and oh my gosh, like I was walking by and I noticed how many young kids
mm,
have already died.
hmm.
Especially in this cemetery has a lot of Slavic people
Okay.
that come from Ukraine, Russia. And I had this thought, I'm like, okay, these people brought their kids over here for a better future.
Mm-hmm.
But what had happened, this sort of freedom and the way how easy life in America is,
Mm-hmm.
contributed to these kids getting into, and a lot of these kids died either in car accidents
Right.
or overdose,
Yeah.
and it's so painful. It's so sad to see so many young kids that are already gone.
Right. Well, it's like we have to do the best we can as leaders and as parents, as people as a part of our culture. Is like what are you, not you specifically, Paul, but the proverbial you, like what are we putting out into the world? I think it's just the ripple effect is the ripple effect, and your actions matter.
Yes.
Um, and I don't know. I think that's why I chose that story. Is because like I know I'm gonna cry, and even if it doesn't mean anything to somebody else, like there will be somebody who's like, he makes a good point.
Mhm.
Every decision I made, like going through the airport, like mattered. Now
Yes.
that was like incredibly like urgent and all this, but to me, I have incredible, how much would I have regretted that had I sat around at home for another 30 minutes debating on whether or not like I should go through the effort, like I got my wife and kids here, I'm really gonna, it's like I identified like what was most important, and I just did not hesitate, and I did not want to regret that.
So has that really helped you the way like you make decisions right now? Because I know a lot of people,
Yeah, I think
um,
it does.
they can be so indecisive. You know, they
It's
can
hard.
over evaluate. You know, there's this phrase that says, and
Analysis by paralysis.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So has that really like helped you like make faster decisions?
It must, because I get very impatient when people are humming and hawing. Not just like, not in business specifically, but generally. I'm like, okay, first of all, like if it's not in business, I'm like, what's on the line? Like, are you going to lose a contract? No. Like, this is so trivial.
Mm,
Like this, just pick one and make the most of it. And so like I get impatient with that sometimes, like when it really just does not matter.
hmm
And then in business, it's like you have to be professional and patient, but it's like, I just tell people, I'm like, look, I know you're going to take whatever time you need to make your decision, and I respect that, and that's great. But ultimately, this is what it comes down to. You're either going to choose this path or this path. So if that helps, like, just get back to me when you can, but that's it.
hmm Wow.
You know, because people want to think about all the details of like, well, what are all this? It goes back to the beginning of our conversation about like people planning for kids and all this. They want to calculate every possible possibility
Yes, yes.
that could possibly happen down that path, and it's like that's not possible,
And it's all in here. It's not like it actually will happen or might happen.
right?
Like you
And that's
just,
why there's like an incalculable number of
yeah.
it's just raw potential. You know, we do that as a survival mechanism. Right. And it's kind of like we're kind of, as humans, we're like endowed with that gift of being able to run. This is like Jordan Peterson talks about this. We run in our imagination a simulation of a possible future.
Yes.
What I think I've learned is, especially from that experience and that meaningful story, is I need a general picture. And then I'm going the way that is generally better. And then we're gonna adjust along the way. Like I couldn't have planned to make it to that plan. Like I couldn't have calculated like what parking lot was going to be open and which one was going to be closed and all this. And like, was there going to be an accident on the road? Like people think about that. So, well, what if there's an accident? I don't even make it to the, okay, then you don't.
Yeah.
Then you don't. But if you don't even go, then you're not even qualifying yourself for the possibility of success. And
Yeah.
and so that I think just if we can simplify the decision making for ourselves, then it becomes less stressful.
So I'm assuming there's going to be some younger people watching this. What would you tell or recommend to someone who is thinking about maybe starting a business? Maybe they feel like they're an entrepreneur inside.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something, one or two things that you would recommend?
Man, it's like, there's so much.
There is so much, yeah. So maybe like something that's
and
kind of overarching, something that's more.
well, first of all, you have to believe that you can do it.
And even that, for so many, will sound.
It is. I've heard that
differently.
1,000 times. But it's just you can't. Usually, we're those of us who we feel like we're not. Maybe we have a job and it doesn't feel like us, and there's no way we can see ourselves sitting in this freaking cubicle for the rest of our lives, let alone another year. Good, fine, you've identified it, but if you're going to leave your secure thing that like, just know that it's all risk. It's all risk. Meaning like there's reward, but it's like you're leaving certainty and you're going on a journey through the woods, man. Like,
Yeah.
so you have to believe that you'll be okay, because everything will predicate on your belief. And this is kind of ties in with the mind and body connection and the emotions and the thoughts, is like, you will find evidence in the world around you, in every interaction you have, in every place you go, and everything you do, you will find and notice evidence for things that support whatever belief you have.
Yeah.
It's just our cognitive bias. It saves us energy.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to be very careful about what you believe, you know? And so if you're hesitant, that's natural, but like, maybe break it down into steps and say like, maybe this is the main goal, but like, here are some like, so maybe that's one other thing to tack on is like, go for like, have a main goal, but then like have goals along the way.
Break
And
it
that
down,
way you
yeah.
don't fall into overwhelm, but just believe that you can get to the next goal. And maybe that's actually more practical.
Yeah.
Just believe you can get to the next goal. And because what the journey will be is one achievement at a time. And there are going to be so many more achievements that you don't even know you'll have to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even know what's going to come
Yeah.
your way. Like that. And you're going to have to just start acknowledging and accepting like, this is not pretty, but perhaps it's meaningful, and perhaps I'm going to learn a lot, and maybe I will make a lot more money, you know, but you have to believe that,
Yeah.
you know, because there's always, it's just like,
And for many people, that means that you might need to change the people that you are surrounded with.
100%.
Because I know there are certain people that they'll tell you, no, what are you talking about? Are you kidding me? Like, you know, even like sometimes even the loved ones,
Yeah.
the ones that care about you a lot, they care about you so much that they don't want you to crash and burn. So they're
Yeah.
gonna tell you that, you know,
Or they just don't want to watch you suffer through how hard it is.
yeah. But
Like,
but very often they don't even know
Yeah.
the journey to
Yeah.
that. You know, they just have this mindset where only the lucky ones get there, or you gotta really have certain connections. Otherwise, you know, you might just play it safe. You know.
Yeah, they give a lot of value to things that are like kind of true, but they're not everything, like the luck piece.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you get lucky, you know, in some ways.
But you can increase your chances of getting
Yeah.
lucky if you do the right things.
And what was the other one? It was like, you said luck, or the the connections, the people
Yeah.
you know. Well, it's like, yeah, that's a part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
And you do need to go meet people, but like, they almost look at it as you were born, and then you were born with connections, and you were born with luck, and
Yeah.
like, there's absolutely no steering wheel on the machine, and you're just on for a ride.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it's definitely a ride, you know, but it's more like you drive the car and have control of the car, but you're going to have to stop and do a lot of maintenance on the car.
In a few words,
Yeah.
what does success mean to you?
It means I'm not distracted with things that don't matter.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think in practicality, being a family man, it means I'm giving my family what I think they need from me. And that's like, not like, money is actually kind of low on that list. Like, it's important, like, you need to buy things, but success means I'm not, my job's not killing me. Even if business is stressful, I still have what I need to give my kids in love and my wife. And I'm not overly distracted with things that I don't have that I wish I had. And it means success means that I don't quit.
Awesome.
That's it.
I love it. Can you any final thoughts, and can you tell how people can find you?
Yeah, just follow Auburn Business Ventures on actually just Instagram.
Instagram.
Yeah, just like you'll see me on there. If I'm grumpy and I have like a pain in my neck because I woke up in a wrong position, I'm gonna like be yelling at you and like, dude, you need to get it together, you know. But usually I'm just trying to be helpful, so that'd be good.
Brother, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man.